Welcome everyone to January 17th, OTF, Going Deeper with OTF Planboard. We're very proud to present this one. It's kind of a follow-up session to an intro Planboard webinar that Andrew completed earlier this fall. And very excited to have him join us again. He and I are both from the Waterloo Region District School Board and big fans of OTF and all of their initiatives. And I'm very excited to hear his part two as well. And I welcome all of you to it. And at this point, I'm going to turn everything over to Andrew.
Thank you very much, Trish. It's a pleasure to be here with you again. And thank you to all of you for joining us tonight. I say this every time, but it truly is how I feel. It's amazing to me how many teachers give up their own free time on a weeknight to come in and do some professional development some learning. So kudos to each of you for taking some time out of your busy lives to be here and do some learning. So you're here, as Trish said, for the session Going Deeper with OTF Planboard. I try to personalize these as much as possible to the audience, so I'll ask a few questions early on here just to get a feel for where people are at for the most part, and I'll kind of try and tailor this presentation with that in mind as we go. Trish did a quick intro to me there. I am a high school secondary English teacher in Waterloo Region at Kitchener High School. I'm very passionate looking to leverage technology in the classroom to be as effective as possible and help my students use money's way. And tonight, that's what the session is all about, is how we as teachers can leverage some technology to make our lives a lot easier for both ourselves and our students. Really quickly before I dive too much into the session itself here, I said I'd ask you guys a few questions. Very first one off the bat, how am I sounding? Am I coming through okay, everyone? If you can give me a green check mark if you can hear me okay, and a red check mark if you can't hear me very well. Awesome. That is the best start I've had for sound, so good to hear. Okay, with that in mind then, I'm going to start with this slide. We teach today's students as we taught yesterday, we rob them of tomorrow. I love this quote from John Dewey, and part of my experience with using OTF Planboard has really allowed me to reevaluate how I look at my classroom, how I look at my lesson planning, how I share things with my students and administrators and colleagues, and parents and all across the board. And so I'm really excited to kind of share this with you again tonight. And I know for myself, for going back 6 or 7 years ago before I started using Planboard, which has been around for, I want to say 5 or 6 years now, this is kind of how I felt. But truth be told, when I log into Planboard, I get a little excited about my lesson planning because it allows me to do so many really, really cool things. And again, it's changed the way I look at my lesson plans, and that's what I want to highlight with some of you tonight as well, too. And so, this is hopefully by the end of tonight, I hope to have you all here, putting lesson plans and really enjoying yourselves as you're doing it, as I do. Okay, and I think my next question for all of you here, who currently has a Planboard account they've at least used in some basic way before, at least logged into? So again, can you give me a green check mark if you have Planboard, have used it, or a red X if you've got no familiarity whatsoever? Okay, looks like everyone's at least had an account and had logged in. That's great. My plan for tonight is to kind of go through some various pieces of Planboard, kind of show you through screenshots of what I want you to do and how you can do it, and then give you some chances and some time to go and actually try it for yourself, play, and then come back and ask some questions. So the fact that you've got accounts is great, and I'm going to clear that one. And one other question here. Oh, sorry, Christina, so I'm asking if how do you post a green check mark? If you look over at the list where everyone's names are for who's joined the session, there's like a smiley face and then a person with time and a hand to raise for questions, and then there's a little box with a check in it. You can put a green check mark or an X there. Hopefully that helps. Next question for all of you. As Trish mentioned, this is actually a secondary session, so I did an earlier session back in, I want to say, October, on a basic kind of intro course into Planboard. I just want to check in here for who of you were a part of that session. So if you're green check mark if you're part of that session, or a green check mark if you went and watched that recording, or a red X if you have no clue what happened in that session at all. Okay, so a lot of new people here that hadn't seen or weren't familiar with that session, and that is totally fine. You didn't need to be part of it to be part of today, and again, it's great that you're here, and everything I'm sharing with you, which should still work very well for you and kind of help you through the process here. So that's good to know. So I was kind of worried that we might have a lot of people who did have that experience. So my first few slides here are actually just copied over from the previous session I did. I'm not going to spend any time on it because the session is meant to be like a kind of a secondary course in the Planboard for people who have used it in the past and have some experience with it. But that being said, if you're relatively new to Planboard, not really sure how to navigate it and need some help, we're going to drop a few resources in here for to help out and come back to after this session. So with that in mind, a quick intro here into Planboard itself. It is a app or tool through the company Chalk.com. They're actually a local company for me here. They're based in Kitchener-Waterloo. They're an Ontario and Canadian company. They've grown a great deal over the past 4 or 5 years. And when I first came across them, they just started off as Planboard itself. And they've evolved in Chalk.com because they kind of have a suite of tools too. So we focus on online lesson planning through Planboard today, but they have other tools like Markboard, which is for assessment and kind of pairs and sisters with this, and Attendboard and some other tools in there too. So I think I asked them if everyone got a green check mark for everyone if they already have an account. If you don't have an account though, I would like you to go to Chalk.com and sign up for one. As I mentioned earlier, part of the session today will have times for you to go and play and check it out. And thank you, Trish. She's fantastic at following the chat. So she'll drop a link from there for you as we kind of come to them. So if you don't have an account with Chalk yet, if you want to click the link in the chat there that Trish just put in, and as I'm talking, you can still listen as we're going here. If you're in your web browser, go in there and create an account right now. So once you have an account and you can go through Chalk.com and log in, you'll come to a screen like this, and you'll see all you have access through Chalk. Again, for those of you who are relatively new to it, everything we'll be talking about today is a completely free feature. If you're wondering about how are they sustaining themselves and making their money, they do sell products, but they sell that like a school board or district level. That's usually for tying into your student information system. So like if you log in and all your students would be there and your courses would be there for you already by pulling it out of your student information system. If your board is not a user of Chalk, like as a supported user, you won't have that feature, but everything we're showing you tonight is completely free for teachers. Again, so as mentioned in the idea of going and create an account there already, there are a few ways you can create an account if you don't have one. When you go to the site here and click on sign up, obviously you want to select yourself as a teacher. You can put in any email. There's also options to sign in directly through Google Apps if you have a Google account, or through Microsoft Office 365. I also wanted to highlight here too, I won't be focusing on them too much today, but if you're a mobile user, there is a Planboard app for both the iPhone and iPad and also for Android. So if you're a mobile user, they're really great. They are unique applications for those devices, so it is a different version from the mobile web. You can also jump on the website through your mobile device, but the nice piece here is that these apps are actually built for your phone or for a tablet, and so the functionality is more geared towards working on a device that size as opposed to being on a computer. So the links are there for you, and Trish will drop those in as well. Thank you again, Trish. Other thing I wanted to mention too before we get too deeply into this is my experience with the support team at Chalk has been absolutely amazing. We'll talk about it a bit later, but there's a little kind of like message me button or help button in the bottom right hand corner when you're logged into Planboard, and there's usually people there for a live chat that are fantastic. But if you've got questions, need support, things aren't working for you, or even if you have suggestions for how you could think it could be made better, they love hearing from people, and I've always had really positive experiences going through the support. And another piece, and I'll mention this again later, if you're looking to use the OTF Planboard, there's actually a section that I'll cover with you later on in the session about how you can access a large database, I believe over 500 lesson plans across K-12 and all subjects that were built by the Ontario Teachers Federation, and you can import those right into your Planboard account. We'll show you that later, but if you want to get access to that, you need to email support@chalk.com and just ask for the free access to the OTF lessons. Okay, moving along. I mentioned I had done a session on this previously, and this is kind of a more power features, whereas the previous session I did was more of an intro. But I wanted to highlight just a very few basics right off the bat here and give you guys some resources if you're relatively new to Planboard and you kind of want that or need it as a refresher. So if you're kind of new and looking for a setup here, I put a video demo together. I think it's about 9 or 10 minutes long. Trish, you're so good tonight, even as I'm saying things, you're dropping the links in. So we're not going to go and watch this right now, but if you're someone who wants to, you're kind of new to Planboard, and you'd like to go in and get set up, you're not really sure how to create your courses or create your semester, or if you're not really sure how to set up your timetable, this video I made is a screencast that will take you through it. And I saw Leanne's got a question here, and I just want to look at the chat. Do you have any plans to offer Planboard in French for the French boards? Leanne, that's a great question. Sadly, I can get by very basically on French. I'm good in Quebec or France when I'm traveling to get by, but I'm definitely not strong enough to run a session completely in French. But that is definitely something you can recommend to the Ontario Teachers Federation, OTF Connects, and that might be something they can explore. But that's a great question, Leanne. And since Leanne jumped in there, I'll just mention to everybody too, we've got a decent sized session tonight, but I'm pretty free-flowing in my presentation. So if you ever have questions, feel free to raise a hand there like Leanne did, or throw it in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on it because I'm happy to take questions as we move through this. But also be aware, as I kind of broke this into about 8 different sections for this presentation, and in each section, you get a chance to try out what I'm showing you, and then come back and ask questions as well. Okay, so there's links there for this. Again, don't watch the video right now, but it's a link you can come back to, and it's posted on YouTube that kind of just takes you through how to set up your Planboard account and use it. And then next up, I also want to give some resources with the basic functionality. Again, this is a big focus in the earlier session I did. Today we're looking at some more power features in Planboard and diving a little more deeply into those. But looking at the idea of functionality of how to use Planboard, how do you actually go and create some lesson plans. There's another video for you here for that. So there you go again from Trish. If you're not really sure how to create lessons or the kind of some of the features you can use to create your lesson plans in Planboard, you can go and watch that video at a later time too if you want to just kind of bookmark it or just open up your browser and pause it for now. Okay, with that in mind, that actually brings me to what I want to focus on with each of you today. If you were, again, it looks like most of you didn't make the first session, but if you did, a few of these things I touched on very briefly, but just kind of threw them at you, let you know that, hey, here are some things that are in Planboard, but didn't have the time to work through them. My plan today is to kind of dive into some of the most power functions a little more deeply. So if you've just been using Planboard as a kind of basic lesson planner for yourself, today is kind of going up to like that kind of second level and looking at some of like the really deeper tools you can use within it. So the first one I want to speak to all of you about today is what they do for curriculum expectations. As an Ontario educator, one of the things I love about Planboard is they have all of Ontario's curriculum, kindergarten through grade 12, every subject, embedded right within Planboard. Again, in the demo videos that are shared there, it actually shows you how to tag that off. So once you've added the Ontario curriculum for your specific subject or course to it, when you're in Planboard, you can add and track it throughout. Now, that's really a personal preference for people for what that looks like and how they want to do it. I know there are teachers out there who very closely track every specific expectation in their curriculum across subjects, across areas. That's not my personal workflow. I've tried it in the past before, and I found it a little just too cumbersome to work through it. So my personal workflow is I actually track by the overall expectations. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a high school English teacher, so I've got 4 core strands in English curriculum in high school, which is writing, reading, and literature, oral communication, and media studies. And so within each of those, there's about 3 or 4 overall expectations for about a total of 15, I believe, in English. And so that's how I track it. So I kind of put each of those into my lesson plans as I'm going through. So we're going to kind of speak to that, seeing what that looks like. But again, if you want to track by every specific expectation, you can do that. Or if you want to just pick off little pieces here and there too, it's there. But I found it very, very valuable. One, to make sure for myself I'm actually covering the curriculum as I think I am. Because I feel like prior to using Planboard, I felt like I was doing a decent job, but I wasn't really sure. This is a great way to actually track it and kind of keep an eye on it and see where your strengths and weaknesses are in that space. It's also great sitting down with administrators if you're on a review or things like that, kind of show them how you're tracking the curriculum, and it really makes sure you're covering what you need to be covering in your course as well too. Okay, so with that in mind, when you're in Planboard in a specific lesson plan, once you've added the curriculum to that specific subject or course you're teaching, you'll see down here where it says Add Standards. I know OTF isn't a huge fan of this in Ontario. The language we use is expectations, because Chalk's a global company and a lot of their business is done in the States as well. They have the terminology Add Standards here. So once you're within a lesson plan, if you click on Add Standards, you'll have the option to see all the specific and overall expectations for a course you're teaching. As you can see in the example here where it says A1, A2, A3, those are 3 overall expectations I added to this lesson plan. If you're wondering what those are, within Planboard, if you hover over them, it actually gives you the full description of what A1 or A2 or A3 would be. With that in mind, so when you click on Add Standards, you'll see a screen pop up, and that will give you a list of all of the expectations for that specific subject or course. So for a lot of my English classes, it tends to be somewhere between 84 and 87 overall specific expectations. It usually starts with the overalls and gives you the specific afterwards. You can quickly scroll through them. You can also search and see the search bar at the top. So instead of like going through all 86 or 90 or however many you have in your course, if you're looking for something specific, you can start typing that in, and it should actually very quickly filter out and help you find the specific expectations you're looking for. Even if you're not going with the mindset of having the specific expectations, or if you don't feel very comfortable with them, even if you're doing something in your class, even just typing a little bit of what you're doing is a great way to see what expectations you might actually be hitting, even if you're aware of it right from the start. So like I said, you can go here and click Add, as you can see there, and see which ones are added and which ones are not. And then one of the great things about that is not just you're kind of adding to the lesson plan, because you can see it on those lesson plans as you push them out and share them to an administrator or to a supply teacher who's coming in for you. They can see those as well. But one of the great things for yourself is you can actually track what have you covered in the curriculum, what you haven't, and even more importantly, where did you cover it and how. So what I want to speak to now is the curriculum expectations tracking and how you can actually kind of see how you're doing with your courses. So in Planboard, in the top left-hand corner, there's 3 kind of horizontal bars, and that's kind of like a toolbar for you to access. So you see I've opened it here on the left of the screenshot here, and if you scroll down the second one, you see like your semesters and your subjects, and your third option is standards. If you click on that, that's where you go to see how you're tracking your curriculum expectations. And so once you click on that, it'll come into a screen like this, and from the top left-hand corner, you can choose what semester you want to look at, and you can see the specific courses you're teaching that semester. And if you click on one, this is where you'll kind of see your tracking here too. So what's interesting about this, if you look at the far left there where it says section 1 for me, I've got a little red bar, and that's showing my progress for what expectations I have covered and which ones I haven't. So you can see there, I've covered 12 of 85 at this point in this my grade 10 academic English class here. Now, as I mentioned for myself, I only focus on the overall expectations in my tracking. I'm not doing the specific ones. If I was covering the specific ones at this point, it might have been somewhere like, maybe 70 of 85 so far. And then we can also see over to the right, it's got a list of all the expectations there. And so you can see for A1, A2, and A3, they're listed in green and check marked off. I didn't do that. Chalk's doing that automatically for me to let me know, here are the ones you've covered. Underneath that, you can see the A1.1, 1.2, 1.3. They're in black without the green check mark. That means I haven't covered them so far. Another really, really cool piece about this, and again, this is with no work on my end, but Chalk does this for you automatically through Planboard, is when you click on a specific or overall expectation, and you can see I clicked on A1 here, it actually gives me a list of dates and links to the lesson plans where I covered that. So I found this very powerful in a lot of ways. One, to see if I'm kind of spreading my lesson plans throughout the curriculum the way I want to be doing that. Am I kind of being somewhat fair and equal, which is kind of my personal philosophy in the classroom among the curriculum expectations. And also I can jump to those lesson plans just with a click and see what I did that day. I've also found this is really good for review for students. If I have a few students who are struggling with something, as I'm tracking by the curriculum here what I'm doing in my class, and from my assessment standpoints too, I track by the overall expectations as well. If we get towards the end of the semester, as I am right now, and I've got a student who's been struggling with the overall expectation, I can come into Planboard, see the lesson plans there, grab the links to them, and share them with that student for a very quick and easy review. I've also had that come out of parent-teacher meetings too, where I'll sit down and talk to a parent and say their son or daughter might be really struggling with the reading strand, and that parent might ask for some resources. So very quickly, I'll jump into Planboard, find some expectations for the writing curriculum that I've covered already in the course that semester, grab 3 links to, if I can find that where I've covered that off very quickly, grab those 3 links, copy and paste them, email them to the parent, and then they can go back and sit down with their son or daughter later that night and go over the lesson plans we've had from class and how to use them. So if you're wondering about sharing too, we'll talk about that a bit later in the session as well. So for the kind of tracking the curriculum expectation here, I found that really powerful in a lot of different ways. So again, just going back to seeing what's covered here, you can highlight it, green check marks yes. The bar there gives you an idea of what you've covered down in your class, tracking throughout the semester. I don't jump into this a ton, but I'd say maybe like every 3 or 4 weeks, I'll pop in here and just kind of see how I'm doing and kind of readjust my lesson planning going ahead if I feel like I'm missing something or I spent too much time somewhere. Okay, so with that in mind, like I said, I wanted to give you all various chances throughout this presentation to go and try it for yourself. Now, almost all of you said you had an account in Planboard, so if you're not logged in, I'd love you to open up your browser right now, log in, and I'm going to say take about 4 or 5 minutes here just to play around with this. Go into your lesson plans. If your curriculum's not added, if you go into your subject and the toolbar there, click on subjects, click on it, you can search out the curriculum, add it to a course, and then go in and actually just kind of play around with the idea of tagging and tracking and see how that looks. Trish, let's put a timer on here for, say, 4 minutes for people to kind of go and play with this and give it a try. And this is also space for you to open to questions here too. So I find the best way to kind of troubleshoot things is give people a chance to play with it, and then as we're running the problems, just come in and ask. And as for that question standpoint, feel free to type something into the chat if you've got a question, or if you have a microphone, you can also feel free to jump on the mic and just ask so other people can follow along too. So with that in mind, jump in Planboard for a few minutes, and you can see the timer there. We'll move on when the timer's up, but please feel free to ask any questions you have right now. That's a great question, Leanne, and actually, I'll be honest with you, not one I've come across. I would try searching, like just adding the word French and then searching other subjects and see what pops up. There's that search database there for the expectations for chalk. I know that that's been a focus for them in the past. I'm just not sure if they have all of the Ontario curriculum in the French language or not. If they don't, and you're coming from a school board that I presume is based in French, as you've highlighted, I would go to support@chalk.com there and send them an email and say, hey, this is something I would really like. Can you add in all the expectations in the French language as well? So I'll come back to Michelle in a sec here. Melanie, it's a great question. So this is Melanie's question here for those of you kind of following along. It says, why might there be courses with similar names? I went to get the expectations for grade 10 food nutrition, and there are 2 versions of it. Without looking at it specifically, Melanie, it's hard for me to say. If you looked over beside it, some will say Chalk Official or Official Chalk. Those are ones they're certifying as the full mandated Ontario curriculum. The other piece of that is people can create and share their own expectations that you can search out there. So the one that says like Chalk Official is the one they're certifying as this is what we've put in from the Ontario Ministry of Education. So I would check that. The other possibilities too, sometimes you'll see 2 in there. If the curriculum was updated recently, they'll have teachers asking them for and saying, well, I know the ministry put out new expectations in 2017, but I'm not quite ready to shift over yet. Can you leave the 2016 ones for me there too? So it might be the new and old version, but they tend to kind of drop the older version pretty quickly and say, hey, people should be on the new version now. Good, Melanie. I'm glad that answered your question for you. And Michelle's asking about who owns the content that gets uploaded, what the privacy terms are, and do teachers return the rights of uploaded content, or is it shared with Planboard? Michelle, rather. That's a great question. You're the owner of the content. Chalk doesn't take any ownership in that way for it. Their kind of monetary policy in the way they're working things is the idea of selling to school boards. Their kind of goal is to be as supportive of teachers as possible. And so if you're wondering about the kind of free model here, their model is we hope teachers love using our products and that they'll go back to their school boards and kind of encourage, like, hey, this is great. Can you come back and try it? But you are the owner of everything that's uploaded. They're not reselling or taking your lesson plans or kind of reposting there and things like that. By default, probably we'll talk about sharing later on in this session because there's amazing ways to share within Planboard. but the default is everything's private to just you. You have to actively go out of your way to share with others. And yeah, Melanie, I totally agree. The fact that all the curriculum expectation in there, you just click add is fantastic. I've done some stuff in the past where I was trying to like make spreadsheets and copy and paste them all in and use it. It was a big hassle. I found this a really big time saver. Okay. Leanne, I see a hand up there for you. Did I answer your question or you still have one? Okay, just disappeared, I think, so we should be good there. Any final questions about curriculum expectations, adding, tracking, anything along those lines before I move on? And no worries, Leanne. Christine, that's a great question about new curriculum. My experience is they've been actually quite fast. And again, reaching out to Chalk, their support team is fantastic. So if new curriculum comes out for your course, again, it's not like they have someone checking every day for every single course and every subject and every grade for Ontario. But if new curriculum comes out and you don't see it there, just fire Chalk an email at their support page. And I would guess you'll see within a few days of asking, because they tend to be very responsive to teachers' wants and needs that way. Any other questions before I head on? Okay, so like I said, I broke this down into about 8 sections, where that was the third one there, looking at curriculum expectations. I'm going to slide off into looking at it in a different space now. So the next one up is templates. If you were here for my first session earlier this year, I very quickly mentioned templates, but didn't spend any time on it just because there's so many amazing features within Planboard, and I didn't really chance to speak to it. But today I want to dive a little more into detail into templates and how they can be used. So with that in mind, first off, what I'm talking about with a template, a lot of teachers, for example, might want to have a set plan or a set template or format that they use for the lesson plan. As an example, if you're focused on learning goals and success criteria, you might always start off with a learning goal. You might always have the success criteria underneath that. You might have a space to then plan it out in student-friendly language with your students. You might want a section for the resources you'll need for that lesson. And when you go into Planboard and open up a lesson plan, it's a blank slate. Now, if there are certain things you'd always like to be there, or at certain times would like to be there, you can create a template within Chalk, enter in the information that you want to be there, and then you have the option to either add it to a course specifically that every single lesson plan, when you open it, the default is it has that template there ready to go for you already to add to, or you can create a variety of templates and then add them to specific lesson plans as you go. So this can be a really big time saver. If there's things you're finding you're constantly typing your lesson plans every single time, I would highly recommend using a template. So to get there, same thing. The 3 horizontal bars in the top left-hand corner of Planboard, click on that. If you scroll down underneath Planboard itself, right underneath timetable, you'll see templates. And so if you click on templates, it will bring you into a space like this. If you haven't created any before, it will bring you to a blank screen here. And then there's 2 options to create one. You can just click on where the blue button where it says create new template. There's a little plus button in the top right-hand corner. And this will take you to a template to create. And it will bring you to a screen that looks like this. Okay, and so when creating a template, you have the general toolbar there, like you would in Planboard, you're creating a lesson plan. And again, you have a lot of things you can add here. So you got like the basic functions of typing, like bold, underline, italics, strike through. You can put in a numbered list in here or a bolded list. But you can also go deeper and add media to it if you want. For example, if there's images or links to a video, hyperlinking out to websites. Again, all the things that living in that digital space we do with our classrooms now, and one of the reasons I truly love using Planboard is that it takes all the digital content I'm using in my classes and makes it very simple and easy for me to organize and keep things in one space here. You can add all that into your templates as well. And so again, just kind of thinking about when you're creating a template, it's really, you can personalize this however you like. You can create as many templates as you like. You can see the top, very top there where it says Untitled Template. You can name it whatever you want. So for example, it might be a basic template, as I mentioned. It might be starting off with like just having the word learning goals underneath that, success criteria. Under that might be like the resources needed for class. And then if you have a plenary at the end, you always do a plenary. You might say plenary at the end. Okay, so instead of typing out that words and those language and having space for that in every single lesson, if you use that all the time, you can just create the template and actually embed it into all of your lesson plans for a specific course or subject, and then you're saving yourself time every day by creating that. So once you've named and created a template in here, you have the option to, as it says, assign to classes. You see that blue button in the top right-hand corner there? If you click that, it will show you all the classes or subjects you've created in Planboard, and you can assign that template to that. What that means is that any lesson plan you open within that course or subject, it is going to have that template there already embedded in, ready to go for you. That's kind of, again, the big time saver for a lot of people. The other thing to keep in mind is if you don't want to add it to every single lesson plan, maybe it's something you're going to use a quarter of the time, come in here, same process, give the template a title, put in whatever you want for the template, and then just leave it. You can leave the screen, don't assign it to a specific class. And then if you do that, you get the option here too. When you're in your lesson planner now, just going into a single day, creating a new lesson, when you look at the bottom of the toolbar there in a specific lesson planner, you can, again, back to where we were adding standards and the expectations. You can upload files here. You can link it to your Google Drive. And you get that option to choose template. So that would be just for this specific lesson now. Click on Choose Template. You'll see the list of titles of the templates you've created. You can then add that into your lesson planner here. Okay, so again, I like quick pauses and don't want to speak at you guys for too long. So now that I showed you the template feature, again, I would say just go and play. You can make unlimited ones. There's a trash button up there too, so if you kind of just want to make one for play here and have fun with it, you can delete it after the fact. It doesn't stay. So again, Trish, we'll throw maybe 4 minutes up here. Again, just a quick timer. I'd love you all to just go jump back into Planboard, go into templates, try and create one, add some things in. You could assign it to a specific course, or if you don't want to just leave that, go into your lesson planner then and see, just click on Add Template and see if you can add it into your lesson plan. And Leanne, yes, I believe, yeah, you can definitely go on and remove a template. I think you can actually delete out the actual text in there if there's not something you want, because it just kind of like copies and pastes it in, or you can remove it too. So again, everyone, if you're playing around with it, come back and ask questions, please. I'm happy to answer. Again, if you have a microphone, feel free to jump on the mic. Or if not, just drop a question in the chat, and I'm happy to answer that way too. I'm glad you like it, Melly. Yeah, I totally agree. It's nice to have some base templates there that if there's something you want to use over and over again as a reminder for lesson plans, it's just there embedded in. It definitely is another time saver. And again, you can think about creative ways to use it too. For example, if you're a science teacher, if there's a simple template that you have or want for your lesson plans for when you're, say, doing a lab, which you might do 3 or 4 times in a semester for science, you can create that lab lesson plan template. And then just leave it there. Don't add it to every single lesson because you're not doing labs all the time. But then when you come to that specific lesson that you're running a lab, there's that template for you. You just add it in, and then you've got that time saver for not retyping things over and over again. And I'd say the other thing to keep in mind too is if you're working in, say, K-6, and you've got multiple subjects, again, as a secondary English teacher, I feel very fortunate. I've got 3 classes that are all English-based in a semester, but working K-6, you might be teaching any variety number of subjects to an entire grade, and you can create templates for each specific lesson and access from wherever you want. So you might have some templates for math, you might have some templates for language, you might have some templates for French, have some templates for phys ed. And again, you can access any of those from any spot in time and create as many as you'd like to add to your lesson plans. Jenna, that's a great question. What is there a bank of templates? Chalk by default and Planboard by default doesn't have a bank of templates. One thing we're going to get to later on here, though, is what's called Chalk Collaborate, which allows your teachers at your school to share things with each other. And one thing you can share is templates. So if you have a few other teachers at your school who are also using Planboard, if one of you creates a template, you can actually share it with the group, and then everyone has access to it. So no to a common bank, just things to look through, but if people within your school want to share with each other and one person creates it, that is something you can access. And we're going to actually cover that a bit later this session. Okay, any final questions about templates or from people playing around before I move on? Okay, looks pretty quiet. Next up then, Jenna, thank you for the fantastic segue. The next thing I want to talk about here is Chalk.com's Collaborate tool. This is relatively new, and it's especially new as a free tool. Going back, when I launched it, I was so excited for this. Again, my school board doesn't pay for as an admin level for Chalk.com, so I'm just on the free level like most teachers in Ontario. But I had kind of early demo access to this because I've done some work with them before, and I absolutely love the Collaborate tool. And what I'm really happy to say is, as of a few months ago, they actually took it out of their paid features and just made this another free tool that any teacher can access. So with Chalk.com Collaborate, it allows you to share lessons and units through your department. You can share with teaching partners or within your school. So this is a place to share. You can share entire courses. You can share a specific lesson plan. You can create groups by grade. So if the grade 2 teachers at your school, there's 3 grade 2 teachers, and you're all using Planboard and you want to share a bank of lessons with each other, you can create a group just for the 3 of you and share those lesson plans back and forth. Or you can create a group for the 3 of you to share templates back and forth, as we were just talking about, Jenna. And you have different options for how you share. You can share things within your school, or as I said, you can create groups and choose to share with specific people as well in this place. So next up here, I'm really excited to show you what Chalk's Collaborate tool looks like. And as I mentioned, this used to be only for people who had a paid subscription through it. This is actually, they just made this a free tool for teachers now too, which I was super impressed with because it is pretty powerful. Okay, so with that in mind, Chalk Collaborate, because it was a paid feature and it was easy to set up when the district or school board was paying for it, there's a bit of work that goes into getting yourself setting up as in the free model as a teacher just wanting to use this with other teachers. So the first step to doing that is going to set up chalk.com/collaborate. As you can see, Tress dropped a link in there for you again too, and you'll have access if you want to come back and look at this later. You don't need to do it right now. But once you go here, you'll see the options there are create an account, already have an account. That's speaking to Chalk itself. You can go through that space there. And so there's some basic setup sides, and there's different ways to do it. Basically, one of the things you have to do is you have to actually get in contact with Chalk.com and have them set you up as an administrator at your school to give you some of the features here to do things in resources and share with people and create groups. So you're not quite there by default, and you'll have to kind of log in and say, this is the school I'm tied to, but they can take care of that for you. And again, if you're having any trouble whatsoever, just go to support@chalk.com, and they will guide you through the process. So a little more setup for this one to get there, but I can guarantee you it is very much worth it. So once you're set up in that space there too, really where we're going to be working and focusing on this stuff is their space that they call resources. So again, top left-hand corner, if you click on the 3 horizontal bars, you get the whole list here of the things you can access through your Chalk account. You see Planboard there itself, and this is not built specifically into Planboard. It's a separate tool from Planboard, but it works with Planboard. So as you scroll down, you can see Markboard, which is their assessment tool, Attendance, which is for taking attendance for your classes, and then you'll see Resources. If you click on Resources, it will bring you to a screen like this. Okay, and so using the resources here, if you're in for the first time, you will not see anything on the screen. I've been using it for about 1.5 years now, and so I've got a whole bunch of stuff in here. But it's a really, really, really powerful tool that I am actually in love with, and I've brought some other teachers along with my department in school, and they've been geeking out pretty hard about using it too. So you get some different options here, like you can see the everything in the top left there, or specifically shared with me. So I'll give you an example. Right now, the grade 10 academic English teachers at my school, a number of us are using Planboard, and we're kind of working in conjunction with each other. We like to collaborate for what we're doing, trying to stay relatively similar for what we're doing in our courses and what our assessments look like and how we run our lesson plans. And so one of the great things about this is we've been sharing lesson plans back and forth. So as we're kind of building new things to work on with our classes, we might trade off and say, okay, can you take care of the lesson plans for next week and then share with the group. The great thing about that is, so that one person would go into their Planboard account, say create the 5 lesson plans for next week, Monday to Friday, and then they would click the share button, and I'll show you how to share a bit later here. And then they can choose who to share that with. And you can put in specific emails and have them share with just a specific person, or you can have groups created as well too. So we've got a grade 10 academic English group. And so once they type that in and click send, the other 4 teachers teaching it just get that bank of lesson plans. And then you'll see in the screen here, so it says all types there. I can see a whole bunch of lesson plans that I've shared and that others have shared with me. When that comes in, all I need to do to add those lesson plans to my lesson planner is I click on the what was shared with me, I click add, Chalk will ask me, or Planboard will ask me for what course do you want to add this to and on what dates or dates, if it's only one. So you click, and then those lesson plans that someone else created are copy and pasted right into your lesson planner in Planboard. Now the great thing about this too is that once they're shared with you and you import them in, they're your own version of them now. It's like a copy of the original that you can edit as much as you like. So if you don't want to follow things exactly the way another teacher built them out, they can still share that lesson plan with you. You can insert it into your account, and then you can go and edit. If you want to take a few things out, add a few other things in, you're welcome to do that because that's within your lesson planner now. So there's different ways to create groups here. You can see off the side there I've got my groups. There's a group just for my school, and then I've got different groups from different semesters and other with different teachers in them and for different ways for sharing lesson plans back and forth. So as I mentioned, you get the option to share lesson plans within your entire school community, all the teachers there. You can share with just a few specific people by creating groups. You can share with individuals by just an email. Or, and we had a question from, I want to say it was Michelle earlier, asking about privacy of your content, who owns it. You own it. This is just here as an option. You don't need to choose to share with anybody. You can kind of live in a walled garden here and keep everything to yourself as well too. Okay, so next, as I mentioned today, the idea of importing lessons. So if someone shares a lesson plan with you through resources here, you can see the list and see the title of the lesson plan, who shared it with you, when it was created, when it was shared with you. And once you click on one, you get a few options here. So the first one is you can preview the lesson. So if someone shares a lesson plan with you and you're thinking about using it, if you click the preview button, a box will pop up and you can just see what's in that lesson plan, the content that's in there that someone else built. Again, the embedded videos are there, links to websites are there, learning goals, success criteria, if that's what they're building with, that's all there for you. You click on preview and see it, okay, scroll through, you can see the attachments are there too, any tags are added to it, and then they have the option to just click import. So when you click the import button, a box will pop up saying, okay, what course do you want to import this to, or what subject, on what date, click those things, and then that lesson is copied over into your lesson planner. You can also share and import like by bulk, so you can, like I said, do the entire week at once, you can do a unit. There's kind of like really no limit to the size you want to share with us too, which is really fantastic. So that was kind of how if someone shared something with you, how you can go and kind of add it into your lesson planner. If you create a lesson that you want to share with somebody else, when you're in Planboard, in your lesson plan here on a specific lesson, towards the top right-hand corner, you'll see a share button there. So if you click on that, actually, sorry, I'll jump back here. If you click on this one, a box pops up asking who you want to share with. And then again, if you've gone through the whole process to go through Chalk.com, collaborate, get set up as an admin, have the ability to create groups and add people in. Once you've added some people to a group and created a group, when you click the share button here, you can just start typing the name of the group and it'll pop up right away. Select it, click share, and then that lesson plan is shared out with those group of teachers. And that's the process for how they go with sharing with you as well too. You also have the option through via email, so there's another Chalk user, you just put their Chalk account email in and send it to them that way too, and that'll also be shared with them that way. That was for a single lesson. If you're in the weekly view and you click the share button, which is that kind of like a little box with an arrow pointing to the right, it's in the top right-hand corner there. In the weekly view in Planboard, if you click the share button there, it will now give you the option to share a bulk of lessons. And you can say, okay, I want to start at this date, choose the date you want to start at, and then you can put an ending date. And it could be just for that week, or you can also extend past that. Just recently, like before the Christmas holidays, on, I think, December 21st with my grade 10 academic English group. I shared like 3 weeks of lesson plans for January with them that I kind of organized and set up. So you can share by bulk that way too, which is really interesting. So you can share by entire units if you like. There's really lots of options for sharing the lesson plans back and forth here. And so for how do you manage this, like the resources and kind of creating groups here. So I mentioned the resources toolbar there towards the bottom. There's also the admin tool, and this is kind of where the basic setup goes. So you won't be able to play with this tonight specifically because you need to get set up in Collaborate, but you can do that for free. Once Chalk's made you an admin for your school, and you can have many admins, so every teacher can be an admin if you'd like, you can go in and start creating groups. And that's where you can go manage people, who's in that group. You can add users in and then share that way. Just jumping into the chat here really quick, I see Christine's got a question. She says, is there a way of sharing lesson groups that include start dates so that a fellow teacher teaching a different section of the same course can simply import it all directly into their calendar? So Christine, that's a great question. I believe the way it's set up, like, I haven't used it that way myself. I don't believe it's specifically set up that way. Again, if you had a bulk of lessons, say for an entire unit, or of course if you wanted to, you can share an entire course on something different. So if you just built a course like start date, end date, you can share that as well too with somebody. But specifically for this here, you could choose a bulk of lessons. It was like 50 or 60 lesson plans. Share it with them. It wouldn't go directly into their calendar. They would have to go into resources, see that bulk of like say 60 lessons. They'd click on it and click on the import button like I showed you. And then they would just put their start date and end date in Planboard. They'd say, okay, I want this unit or these lessons to start on February 2nd, and they'd start there, and I want this to end on, you know, April 20th, and then all those would get imported in. Does that make sense, Christine? Okay, perfect. So as I mentioned here in the admin tools, that's kind of where how you organize things for the groups, who's in them, how things are shared. Again, not something you'll be able to play with tonight, but I wanted to kind of highlight it for you and show you what you can do with it if it's something you want to explore after the fact and after tonight with Chalk. And so once you click on admin, this is what you'll see. So you can see here where it says like insights at the top. That's a different thing tied to like how it's being used. You can see users, so you can add people in. And you can see the groups bar there as well too. So you can see this is the groups view right now. So you can see the groups that I'm a part of. Most of these I've created myself. I can see how many people are in them, so I can put in there and I can share those things too. We haven't been using the templates feature and sharing them back and forth, but someone asked about sharing templates. You can see what templates were shared with which groups. And something else you can do is the off days here is if someone's like, again, talking about back to Christine's question about kind of playing around the calendar, if one person in your group went and added all the off days for your semester or school year, so like your PD days, holidays, March break, and things like that, you can share those off days with the group, and someone else can import that to like kind of block those days off to make sure you're not lesson planning on that day and you're not missing something there. And here, if you want to create a new group, just the top right-hand corner, click on Add Group, you give it a name, and you can look at the members and invite people to be in it. Okay. I'm not going to say like because it takes some time to get set up there and go through setup.com, chalk.com/collaborate and take some little back and forth with Chalk to get set up as an admin. I'm not going to have any of you play with it now because you don't have access to it. But having shown you chalk.com's collaborate, does anyone have any other questions about how to use it or how it works or what it looks like? Again, feel free to jump into the chat or raise your hand, and feel free to jump on the mic if you have one too. Okay, it looks pretty quiet. It's either a really good sign that all made sense or a really bad sign that no one has any idea and they're afraid to ask. So hopefully it wasn't too bad. I'll take a green check mark as being a good thing. All right, we're good. All right, I'm glad. Okay, next up, since we talked about it through I want to highlight collaboration first and how that looks and the idea sharing. But there are many ways to share within Planboard, and I want to highlight those a bit more specifically now too. Christine, for taking notes. Okay, don't hurt your hand too much or type too much. So I said you can come back and watch, as Trish mentioned at the beginning. You get it after you guys are done here. You'll get a recording of the session, so you can come back and watch it and check things out after the fact too. So you have access to all this afterwards. Okay, part 6 of 8 for things I want to highlight tonight for some of the more power features in Planboard is the idea of how we can share. one thing I'll highlight here too, for some people, everyone has a different mindset around the space when it comes to the classroom and how things work. You do not need to share it all. And like I said, the default for all of your stuff, it's yours, it's locked down to you, no one else can see it, no one else has access to it. And if that's the space that you want to be in, you can use Planboard just as a kind of walled garden for yourself. It's not for your students, it's not for parents, it's not for admin, it's just you and your space. That's how it's set up and that's the default. But that being said, if you want to share, there are so many great ways to do it. Like me personally, I'm a big sharer. Like I post all my lesson plans online. I have a class website. Every lesson plan goes up there. My students start there each day. They go on, check them out. I tell my parent community, all my students' parents, here's my website. All my lesson plans up there every day. You can see what I'm doing. And I tell colleagues and friends, like, hey, take my stuff, use it. That's the space I like to live in, is just kind of sharing. And Chalk has made that very, very easy for me with Planboard. Okay, so with that in mind, when you're in a specific lesson plan, I mentioned that share button already. One option is to, when you click share, is to share it with the group and collaborate as we're talking about. So that's the idea. If like people want to copy your lesson plan and add it into their own Planboard, collaborate's the way to do that within your school and the teachers. Okay. And yeah, I totally agree. I think, again, hey, public education, if someone wants to use my stuff, they're welcome to it. And like I said, change it, tweak it, do whatever you want with it. That's just my personal philosophy, but I also appreciate that's not how everyone looks at the space. Anyways, coming back here, if you click this share button, you get a variety of options for how to share your lesson. So you get a screen that pops up like this. Now, if you want to, where you can see the top kind of toolbar there, you can click into either of these and start typing. And the first one gives you the option to enter names, groups, or emails. Okay. So if you enter names, you can start typing someone's name. It'll actually give you a list of names of people who are tied into your Chalk Collaborate if you want to share the system specific within your school that's been added to that. You also have the options for groups here. So I mentioned, again, one of the using constantly this semester is my grade 10 academic English group. I named it 2D English 2017-2018. If I type in just the number 2 and the letter D, that group pops up for me. I just click it, and then I can share this lesson plan to that group. So that's the way I can get it out to people that way through Collaborate. Or you'll see the option for emails there too. I can start typing someone's email in and email that lesson plan to them that way as well. You can also add tags to your lesson plans if you want to categorize your stuff. Again, if it's like subject by subject, or if it's by units, if you want to add tags for that, you can come back and find your lesson plans tied to those tags as well too. So that's something you can add here from when it comes to sharing, is putting those tags on things here and saying, for example, it might be if you're looking at focusing on some learning skills, you might tag off the learning skills you're looking at with a specific lesson plan. Or if you're looking at KICA, you might tag it off as like, this is focused on thinking, or this is focused on communication, this is focused on application. So that's just another option there for you too. So that's the top toolbar. You also see the gray button down to the bottom middle there where it says get link or embed code. And this is where, aside from like sharing with teachers, this is how I share my lessons publicly. So when you click on that button, it should bring you to, I think I got it in here. Yeah, it'll bring you to a screen like this. This is the screen you get when you click on get link or embed code for a lesson plan. What this does and what Planboard has done for you is the link option there is for literally every single lesson plan you create, it generates a unique link to that lesson. Now that's not like an editable version. If you're familiar with Google Docs, it's not like you're giving a link for someone else to edit and share with you and work on at the same time. It's like think about it as a web page, a published version of your lesson plan. So this is great to share. If you want to share your lesson with somebody anywhere, the link works great. So again, if you want to post, like for me, what I do is I take these links and I hyperlink them on my course website by the dates, and that's where my students and my parent community go to see my lesson plans on a day-by-day basis. If you're not running a website or a blog, you're not looking to share online that way, this is great for a student who's away sick. Okay, you can grab that link and you can email off to the student or to the parent and say, here's my lesson plan for yesterday. Sorry you're home sick. Here's a chance to kind of follow along with what's going on. And the great thing with this is, again, within Planboard, if you're using web-based content, it's a great way to share that with your students or with your parent community. So I'll be embedding videos into it. I'll have hyperlinks out to a group chat we're doing the class and some websites I want them to look at or read or interact with. And so I've had cases where I've had students homesick and we'll be engaging in an online discussion through something. And even though they're homesick and sitting in bed, they'll actually jump on the lesson plan and they will join into the chat. They've watched the video that we watched together as a class, it's embedded in there. So they're following what's going on in class and actually still engaging in class, even though they weren't there just because it was very easy for me to share this link. The other option too is you get an embed code here. I would say probably less people are familiar with what an embed code is, but basically if you run a website or blog again, there's options for you to embed things in it, and that's basically like it shows up directly on the website. So instead of having a link to it, they would actually see your lesson plan right on your website or blog and just be there and they can scroll through too. So again, really, really cool, powerful feature here. You can get a unique link to a specific lesson plan or an embed code to post to your website. And again, you can think of any ways you want to do that. If you're home sick or you have an emergency first thing in the morning, your kids fall ill all of a sudden, you can't make it into work, jump into Planboard, grab the links to your lesson plans that day, email them off to your vice principal or head secretary, whoever takes those calls, and then your lesson plans are shared for the day. They can print them off. Again, as I mentioned, if you got a student who's going away on vacation, mom and dad are asking for some resources that their son or daughter could work on while they're away on vacation, jump into Planboard, grab the links for the week they're away, their lesson plans, email them off, and then they have access to what they're supposed to be doing that day. Administrators want to follow what you're up to and you want to share some really cool lesson plans, you can post those. Or, like I said, if you want to go very open and sharing, like me, you can post something to your website and it's just there online for them to access and use. Okay, back to the end because this is something that you all can do. Again, Trish, if you want to throw up like maybe 4 or 5 minutes on the timer there, if you're not familiar with the idea of sharing here, I just think go and try it. Again, you won't be able to go into resources itself and play around with that if you're not signed up for it yet, but you definitely can go into specific lessons, click the share button, try and grab that unique link, and then, again, just paste in your browser to see what it looks like, or if you have a course website or something like that, and you want to try and like hyperlink it there and give it a shot, you can do that as well too. And again, open up the floor for questions here, so take 3 or 4 minutes, try around with the sharing feature and find some different ideas there. And again, troubleshooting, if you're not sure about something, please feel free to throw a question into the chat or jump on the mic. And Jenna, looking at the chat, I appreciate the idea of being able to go to your school using Planboard. That was definitely me 3 or 4 years ago. I'd say there's probably about 15 or 20 teachers in my school using it now. It just kind of builds up over time. You kind of talk to a few people on the water cooler about what you're doing, show a quick demo to a few people, and I find the uptake is pretty quick and people start jumping in. Especially when Collaborate became a thing, you could share lesson plans back and forth. I had a lot of teachers want to jump in and kind of be able to share back and forth that way. Definitely, good luck with it. Candace, yes, welcome for joining us, and no worries we're coming in late. Don't take it personally at all. Everyone's lives are busy. Yes, you can definitely access it, as Trish just mentioned. You'll get an email tomorrow with a link of the entire recording, this entire session, so you can see the slides, you can see the chat, and you can listen to everything I've talked about today if you want to go back. Christine, that's a great question. No, for the free accounts, anyone with an email address can sign up for Chalk and use it. So yeah, teacher candidates are definitely welcome to use it. I know Brock, I think actually, and don't quote me, but I think Brock's education system actually goes through Planboard and has teachers using it and playing around with it. It's something like they actually focus there, and I think there might be 1 or 2 other teachers colleges that pick it up now and are looking as a way for teacher candidates to actually share lessons with each other and look at each other's work as they're kind of building lessons together. But yes, I can't speak to that specifically, but I can guarantee that teacher candidates from universities can definitely sign up for an account and use it. So Megan's asked a question about the OTF folder in my Collaborate. Is this something that you shared with us this session? I mentioned it right at the beginning, Megan, that there is a bank of OTF lessons. So that's one thing like that OTF created in partnership with Planboard. So OTF's got hundreds of lessons across all subject areas and grades. They're tagged off. You can kind of look through, preview through resources, and if you find something you like, you can just preview it, like I said, and then import it into your lesson planner. There is some basics there for that. It's the last thing I'm talking about in the session today. So again, Megan, I'm almost there actually. It's a really nice segue for me. Thank you for that. I'll be highlighting what that looks like and how you can do that a bit later on. All right, that's the timer for looking at just kind of playing around with the sharing features within Planboard. Again, leave the floor open here for any final questions. Feel free to jump on the mic or drop something into the chat. And otherwise, we'll move on here shortly. And Michelle, when you say the OTF lessons aren't working for you, does that mean, like, have you already set it up that you have access to them in resources, the import's not working for you, or what's going on there? Okay, interesting. And just to clarify, is that something you already had added though? Like you contacted Chalk and had them add OTF in there for you? Okay. I would just try emailing Chalk again because I used it a few days ago myself and it was working okay. So if it was set up a long time ago, I know they've switched where they're doing things. So I just go support@chalk.com, send a quick email, and say you would like OTF lessons added to your Chalk Collaborate account, and they should take care of it for you. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, it's not like Google Docs or something like that space. So if you share a lesson plan with someone else, and it depends on how you're sharing it, Leanne, but either way, they cannot edit your lesson plan at all. Yours always stays the same. So if you're sending out a link to your lesson plan to share with someone else, it is totally just a can view. They can't do anything with it. It's just there so again, a parent or a student or whoever you want to share with can view it. The other way you can share is through groups within Collaborate or a specific teacher. Then again, they can just only see a copy of that lesson. They can choose to add that into their planner, but again, they don't have any editing privilege to change your original. It's kind of just making a copy that you're sending out to people. Does that make sense, Leanne? I'm hoping so. Okay, yeah. Yes, absolutely. So if you send it to a supply teacher, again, with the links, they would just be able to see it. Or if you go to the Collaborate feature, they could then take it and re-edit it. But if it's a supply teacher, you don't want them edited, I would think. So yeah, I would just share the links. They can't change it. They can see everything though and access it and share it with the students and use it that way. And yes, sharing if you add attachments like PDFs or PowerPoint, Word files, images, videos, whatever like that, those attachments will go along with it too. So for example, if you have some handouts to print off to your class, the PDF of that would show up. They could print those off and have those too. So yes, sharing a link, that's a great question. I should have actually mentioned that earlier, so thank you for asking. I mentioned this in the previous session, not the one tonight, but when you can add content, so there's unlimited cloud storage to your lesson plan in Planboard. So as you're going through your lesson plans, you can add in things like a attachment to, again, a PDF worksheet, PowerPoints, whatever you like. When you share that lesson plan with someone else, those attachments go along with the shared piece, so people can access those and download those to their computer as well. So Allison here is asking, do we have to be set up with that other thing for us to see lessons shared with us? Someone sent me a lesson but not showing up in the shared with me. Yeah, I think you need Collaborate set up to do the sharing, where you're importing it right in. A link will work, Allison, so someone gets the link and shares with you, you'll be able to see that lesson plan. But the idea is sharing back and forth, you need to get Collaborate set up first. That's why I didn't take time to kind of give you guys time to play with it today, because you guys go through that setup first with Chalk. Does that make sense, Allison? I hope that's yes. Well, I want to be conscious of time, make sure we all get out of here before 9. And sorry, Jenna. Yeah, great. Thanks. Good, Allison. I'm happy that works out. Jenna, an answer to your question in relation to Leanne's question, but those people have to have a Planboard account. No. If you're sharing a unique link to your lesson plan, it can go to anyone without a Planboard account. Like I said, when you're in that lesson and you click on share and you click on get link or embed code, if you copy and paste that link, you can email it to anyone, give it to a student, parent, administrator, supply teacher, and it's just a live link. It basically makes a web page of that lesson plan that anyone can see. They do not need a Planboard account to log in and see it, okay? So they don't have to have any ties or connection to Planboard at all. It just gives you a live link to that lesson plan. Yep, and the links will be live and they stay live, like even a year later. I forgot one time, like starting a course like a class a year later, I forgot to go and like delete out the lesson plans that I shared in there, and my students were like still going back and checking all my lesson plans from the previous year without me even realizing it before I could take them out. So yeah, the links are live. Leanne, so to answer your question about sharing as a PDF, no, it's not sharing your lesson plan as a PDF that way. If you use the live link, again, it's a link to a live website, but if you added PDFs to the lesson plan in Planboard, the live link to that lesson plan would also have the attachments on it as a PDF that people could download and see as a supply teacher, for example. Yep, no problem. If you want a PDF of your lesson plans, you can do that too. In Planboard, there's a print feature. So you click on print and then like export as PDF, or I think it's actually going to be a PDF button, or save as PDF. You can get a PDF of your lesson plans too. But the sharing as a link sends it as like a live website to somebody, essentially. Okay, I hope that's it for the questions in that space with sharing. One other thing I wanted to highlight here before we get into the last piece, as we get towards the end of the presentation here, this one won't take too long. This is an amazing tool, is you can actually reuse your semesters and courses. And so what that looks like is once you've finished a semester or a school year, you've got your courses built in there. Let's say, for example, you're a grade 4 teacher. Use Planboard for an entire school year. You're off for the summer. August comes around, and you're teaching grade 4 again. And you want to use pretty much what you used last year, the previous year that you built in Planboard. You would go into like semester school year, create the new school year, put the start date, put the end date in, take a few minutes to add in like the PD days and holidays and off days in. And then you can migrate or import your subjects and courses into the new school year. You can go through and build your timetable again. So like for me, I might have taught my grade 10 English class period A this year. Next year I might be teaching it period C. I would go and build my timetable and put grade 10 English in C. And then I can take all my lesson plans for this previous year that I spent like hours and hours and hours making, take like all 94 of them, and I can import that into the new school year now. So it brings everything over, all my like learning goals, success criteria, all the resources in, the attachments, the curriculum tagging, and it puts it into that new calendar year for me. So my lessons are there, my whole semester's planned out for me. So you use like basically with a few clicks, you can copy and paste an entire previous school year into a new one. This was an amazing, mind-blowing tool for me the first time I used it. And I'll admit too, I'm the type of person, like I don't do the same thing every single year. I like to tweak, I like to keep readjusting, but it gives me a baseline to start with. So I'll bring my lesson plans over from a previous course I've done when I'm teaching it again. And then from there, I can edit and tweak. It's like I'm making a copy of them over, and then I can go re-edit and reuse. Yeah, that's exactly it. So like once you set up your new calendar for the new school year, like I said, you put a start date and an end date. And then if you put the off days and PD days in, it's basically saying, okay, you've got, say you have 94 lessons there and there's 94 days. It just puts the lessons in around the days for that calendar, for that new school year you put in. So yes, it will skip your off days. It skips the PDs. Yeah, I know, it is so cool. Like I said, it's a few clicks and like your lesson planning for the year is done if you're not changing things. And like I said, for myself, I'll spend a fair bit of time changing as I go, but it's a really cool starting point. I can kind of tweak things here and move things around. So once you've done things in Planboard, if you're wondering, like, well, is it worth putting all this time and effort into it? I'll give you an example, like the curriculum expectations. That is a fair bit of extra work on top of all the work we do as teachers. I'll be honest for myself, when I did Planboard for the first couple times, I didn't put the curriculum expectations in, and as I got more comfortable, I started using them. I was like, well, is this really worth it? The nice thing is once I've done it once, they're there for me, it carries over. Allison's asking the question here, can you just do certain subjects? Yeah, it doesn't have to be, that's actually how you build it, subject by subject. So for example, again, if you're using the grade 4 example, if you're teaching math, you did a whole bunch of lesson plans for math the year before, and maybe you're thinking of redoing math completely differently this year. And you're going to say spiral everything you're doing with math, and it's brand new, you're making more play-based, and there's new curriculum tied to it. You might start math fresh, but you can still insert your phys ed courses from last year. You can still insert your language courses from last year. You can insert your social sciences courses from last year. And so you get to pick and choose what you want to add and what you don't want to add in Allison. So yes, it's subject by subject. You can do them all. You can just do a couple. It's up to you. Okay, so what does that look like? So first screen here. Again, all your options are up in the top left-hand corner. Look at those three toolbars there. And then the first option here is for you to click semesters. And once you've done that, it brings you this space here. And so you can see my previous semesters here. I'm going to be going in very shortly and adding in semester 2 for the school year for 2017-2018. And again, I'm actually reteaching 2 of the 3 courses from this semester. I'm reteaching again next semester. So I've got a 3U English and a grade 10 academic English. I'll be coming in here. And so when I want to kind of copy all the lesson plans of this semester over into next semester, top right hand corner there, I just go click and click copy section. And what it's going to do then is going to ask, okay, what semester, what school year do you want to copy from? If you've been using Planboard for a few years, you can scroll through and choose which year you want to pick. If you've only done it once, it's nice and easy to find which one you're looking for. And then it'll ask you for the grade or subject you want to import. You click that, click the new semester, and it will just do the rest of the work for you. It is that simple. And it doesn't take long either. Like, I think I did one at the start of the semester for like about 90 lessons, and I think it like imported them all within about like 10 or 20 seconds. So let's click on the copy section. And like I said, once you click on copy section, you get this box pops up. First thing it's going to ask you is, okay, like, so where do you want to copy from? What semester? And then again, you have to create your new sections here too. So you have to go through the basic setup first of creating the semester or school year, creating what courses you're going to use in that new school year before you import them. And then you also need to, I would suggest you go and do your timetable. So insert like, hey, I'm going to teach French this period, I'm going to teach English this period, I'm going to teach math this period, or whatever subjects you're teaching at the secondary level. And then the next screen there is, okay, so you're copying all this content over to what is your new semester, what is the course you're copying it into, select that, and then Chalk will do the rest of the work for you. Okay. So I'm looking at the time here. We're down to like the last 15 minutes. There's one more thing I want to cover. I want to leave some time for some questions right at the end. So instead of sending you all off to just take a few minutes to try this out for yourself, I'm guessing again, if we have some secondary teaching here, you might actually be thinking about second semester right now. This might be very useful. But if we've got a number of K-6 teachers, K-8 teachers in here, they probably will not find that as useful right now. So I'm going to say we actually skip this piece, and I can take questions at the end if you want to go and try it then. But there's one last thing I wanted to speak to tonight that a few people have asked about, and then we'll get you out of here before 9 o'clock. So the last thing I want to mention, and I did cover this in my original session, it's in more detail there. If you want to go back and from the link Trish shared with you at the start of the session, you can go back and watch it there. But as I mentioned, the Ontario Teachers Federation has built hundreds of lesson plans across K-12 curriculum, I think in almost every single subject and every single grade. They filtered it out by tags, so it's very easy to find lesson plans. And they've had all these imported into Chalk.com. And so with all that in mind, within your Chalk account, you can go ahead, search through those, find one you like, preview it like I showed you earlier in resources, and then import that right directly into your lesson plans. It's a really cool tool that the Ontario Teachers Federation has put together for us. I just want to show it to you very quickly here. So as I can't remember who it was, as someone mentioned this earlier, they could see that one of my groups was OTF. To get access to this group, you need to email Chalk and just say, hi, I would like access to the OTF group in my resources. And I would say within 24 hours, someone will email you back and say, hey, you're good to go. All you gotta do then is come back into your Planboard account, go into OTF here, click on it, and then you'll see this whole database of lesson plans you can search through. I don't know if you can see it, but off to the right there's tags they put in, so you can like look for a specific tag. So you can search by grade level, you can search by literacy if you're looking for something for literacy. And if you want to search by critical thinking, I think that's an option. There's lots of options there. You can click the preview button, see what OTS put together. A lot of times they already have the learning goal success criteria and resources and handouts added to it for you, and you can search through those there to find what you want. And then when you click on insert or import rather, you just pick the date and course or subject you want to insert it to, and it goes right into your planner for you and it's taken care of. So, like I said, once you find something you like, click the import button, and it's going to ask you to choose the specific date you'd like to use that lesson plan. It'll ask you to select the course or subject. You click the import button, and it's copy and pasted over for you. Really quickly, any questions about the OTF Connects piece? I'll answer your question. The way to copy over a unit instead of a whole year. The way I would do that, I don't think it gives that option when you're doing like the migrate copy section, like I was showing you there. I would do that what we were talking about earlier with like Chalk Collaborate, is you could take a bulk of lessons from a previous semester, say I want to share like from this date to this date, so it might be say 3 weeks, share that into a group like a course in Collaborate, and then once you're in your new semester, new school year, you could go back and you'll see those resources shared, and then you could import into the new school year. Does that make sense, Allison? Yeah, okay, definitely, no problem. Any other questions? Oh, Christine's got a good one here. So you've used this feature fairly successfully, have hit a snag. You're in a full year school, but you teach both full year courses and half year courses. So is there a way of creating a full year with 2 separate semesters? So you can migrate forward my career schedule lessons from Sem 1 to Sem 2, and then at the end of the year, copy your dance courses to the next year's schedule. No way, I think I get what you're saying. I've done careers myself a few times, so I just kind of clarify, it's like the semester, so I think it said full year, so semester still be half a year. That's a great question. I think the way, Christine, that's a great question. Actually, just I think there's like a lots of nuances to your question there. So instead of talking here, I can stick around at the end and talk to you a little bit, but I actually recommend maybe actually this would be a good one to actually do the live chat with Chalk and give them a very detailed what you want and get their suggestion. But I think my basic suggestion would be to do 2 semesters in Chalk, and then if you have a course, just like continue it on in the second semester, because if your careers would start, your other courses could keep going. I think that would be the easiest way to do it. So looking at these questions here, so one thing that really frustrated you when setting up your schedule was that it was a 4-week rotation. You taught about 6 classes a day, so once you create a whole week, you want to copy week to next week's following is the only thing that changes. So many duties, yeah, that I can see how that'd be frustrating duties. And again, what I would say too, a 4-week rotation is nuts in my mind. So good on you for having to deal with a 4-week rotation. I don't think I can keep track of that very well myself. Yeah, the Econic Sport, they didn't think so. Yeah, just having a 4-week rotation is brutal. And copying and pasting like that is not something they've built in. I think it's just you're probably a really rare case for them. I'm guessing that's not something a lot of teachers need to deal with. So I can't think of a good way to do that. And yeah, I agree. That is a lot of time to take and set up and do that over and over and over again. But I think you might be stuck with what they've got there for that one. Yeah, Christina, I think that's probably the most efficient way to go. Any other questions from anybody else about the session tonight? Again, feel free to jump on the mic or drop into the chat there. Okay, what I'll say, please don't leave yet, but I just want to thank you all again for joining me today and giving up close to an hour and a half of your time on a weeknight. Again, it truly amazes me the passion and dedication of teachers across Ontario and looking at their practice. I hope you found this useful. And I know Trish is going to jump on here and we'll have a few instructions before you leave, so please stick around. And actually, sorry, before I finish off and pass over to Trish, I see Jen is asking a quick question here. Do you have Chalk is planning on adding supervision tags? Sorry for the late question. So that's a great question that actually shows. I mentioned this in the setup videos at the very beginning of the session if you're going through how to set your stuff up. When it comes to setting up your schedule rotation, they don't have something like lunch or supervision or break as options in there. What I recommend to people is you actually just build it as a course. Like when you create a subject, create a supervision subject and a lunch subject. You want those to be editable within your planner and to be shown in your planner. You don't have to use them as lessons, obviously. You're not building anything into it, but it's something you can add into your timetable, your schedule then. So just create it as a subject or course, and then you can insert lunch or supervision or break into it. Does that make sense, Jenna? Yeah, it's not the best thing, but that's what I do, and it works pretty simply that way. I'm very glad, Michelle. Next time at BIT, please drop me a line and say hello. I always love meeting people in person that I've kind of crossed paths with digitally. Okay, so thank you again all for joining me tonight. I hope you found this useful, and I will pass the floor over to Trish now before you leave. She's got a few final sections. We have met. Okay, even better. I'm glad. All right, Trish, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. I saw a quick question there about previous webinars, and I'm just about to put a link into all of those. What you see right now is very important to us. We have these fabulous webinars, and Andrew, you did another wonderful job. It almost makes me want to teach high school. So if I could have your feedback, you can use that link right there, and I'll also put it in the chat as well too. And you'll see that I put 3 links in there. One is, the middle one is the feedback link. It's the same as it's on the screen. And once you've completed the little survey, you get 48 hours to get your certificate. And then there is a link to the past webinar about OTF Planboard. And you'll get an email tomorrow that has the recorded session on it, and it links to the OTF webinar as well too. This particular one. And before I sign off tonight, this is just a reminder that there is still a subsidy that is available. We've got some great AQ courses, and we encourage you to check that out. So once more, I'd like to thank Andrew and all of you folks who did a great job of asking questions and heading out and trying it on your own. I think that makes the whole presentation nice and interactive, and that's what we're after here, so that you can ask some real-time questions. And Dee, I see you've never received emails. Well, I'm going to make sure that we have the right address for you, and let's hope you get one tomorrow. If not, you can head to the OTF website. Just Google it, and you'll find there as well, too. And anybody else having trouble with that link? All righty. Thanks, Dee. I'll take care of that one there. I'll check that link after I have stopped the recording, which I'm going to do right now. Then I'll leave this open for a few minutes so that you can continue to ask Andrew questions. But then I will ask, once you've completed the survey, if you're all done, make sure you do close your browser window. So this time I'm going to stop the recording.